2, here's me. Let's keep this going for Rory. Let's keep it going for Dr. Nicolette. Mark should be good, so let's give him a preemptive round of applause. But more importantly, keep it going for me. Thank you. If there's one thing I love more than narcissism, it's myself. All right, now you guys ready? Cool. When my daughter was 5, we had the most wonderful experience. Is this clicker working? There it is. Cool. When my daughter was 5, we had the most wonderful experience. We walked into a Walmart and the greeter said hello, which is apparently code word for please talk to me forever. And so my daughter did. This beautiful little girl proceeded to go, oh my goodness, you have a Subway? I love Subways. What's your favorite thing about Subways? I love the bread, I love the cookies, I love the vegetables. Maybe not the vegetables, but I love the ham, I love the bacon. And literally, at about the 15-minute mark, the greeter gets up out of her wheelchair. Legit gets up out of her wheelchair and walks away. And now everyone's looking at me like, oh my gosh, does your daughter have the gift of healing? No, she has the gift of annoyance. But she thought I said anointing. So now she's laying her hands on everything, touching her stuffed animals, hoping Jumanji will happen, putting her fingers in people's salads, hoping to lazar herself some Veggie Tales. I'm keeping her away from fossils because y'all seen Jurassic Park and this is not the time or place. And so fast forward a few years when she gets her Asperger's diagnosis, my wife and I look back at situations like this and go, yeah, that makes sense. And the more research that I'm trying to do to be the best father and advocate for her, I've come to learn there's a lot of studies that suggest the dominant gene for Asperger's is passed on from the father. Or me. Which makes me make a lot more sense because I've always had different perspectives. I've always had these strange ideas, especially as it pertained to weight loss. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about having a different perspective on weight loss. Because when people hear that I've lost 200 pounds, oh, thank you. Oh, thanks. When people hear that I've lost 200 pounds, they want to know, what's your secret? And then when they hear that I've kept it off for just about 20 years without surgery, they really want to know, what's your secret? So I'm about to tell you the epic weight loss secret. Yeah, right? Let's applause it. It's really quite simple. All you have to do, separate the science from the emotion, work on them both separately, and then bring them back in tandem to work for you instead of against you. Yeah, right? Like, and half of you are confused right now, and the other half aren't sober. And I'm so grateful because that's the look I always get. People are like, it seems too easy, but, I mean, pictures don't lie, right? And I couldn't understand why they couldn't understand, and so I couldn't understand. And it's not like I haven't struggled. I went on my first diet when I was 5. 5, right? Like, think about that. When you're 5, you're getting training wheels. I was getting training manuals on how to live a carb-free lifestyle. And this proceeded through most of my adolescence, up until I was 16, and I found myself getting kicked out of an amusement park for being too fat to ride. And for me, it was either life change or suicide. And the challenge was, I liked life. I was just bad at it. But it did lead me to a trajectory where I lost 120 pounds in 9 months. And then I gained it all back in 3.5 years. And so that brought me to my senior year of college, where I'm having one of those look in the mirror moments. And I'm asking myself, do I really want to let the rest of my adult life be controlled by my weight? Do I really want to be defined by an arbitrary number on a scale? Do I really want all of these ramifications leaning on me and giving me guilt and shame and pressure? And the answer is no, I didn't. Because there's a strong argument to be made that obesity robbed me of my childhood, and it robbed me of my adolescence, and I will be damned if it was going to rob me of my adulthood. But I also didn't want to fail again. Because I lost 120 pounds, and that was good, like that's substantial. But then I gained it back. And so I wanted to look at this scientifically and say, where was the fault? And the fault was the first time I lost weight, I hated myself. I was so filled with rage and anger and guilt and shame that I was going to show all those people who would not go to prom with me what they're missing out. Because that matters when you're that age. But now, early 20s, things has changed. I didn't hate myself anymore. I hated what I had become, but I didn't hate myself. And so I knew that hating myself thin not only wasn't a logical option, it was a terrible way to live. So, what's the exact opposite? What if I just love myself enough to actually treat my body the way it was scientifically designed? So I did. And the thing about this is where the concept of separating the science from the emotion really started to take place. And what was fascinating is, as I continued to learn from my daughter, and then I had a son who's also autistic, so I've got both ends of the spectrum, right? Yeah, I'm punching all the cards. I was somewhere along the way, I asked for kids, and God was like, expert level, great, thanks. And so I've come to learn that with the neurodiverse community, they really tend to love facts before feelings, which really makes me nervous at family gatherings. Because in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, like, is this the day they ask Aunt Debbie about her mustache? Because they've done stuff like that at Target. They've been like, oh, hey, I noticed you have it. I'm like, no. And then my father, who's more neurotypical, would say things like, we're not talking about Aunt Debbie's mustache. Not now, not ever. Doesn't matter how thick and lavish it gets. We are not talking about Aunt Debbie's mustache, because he understands that the neurotypical tends to favor feelings before facts. And I'm sure we've seen this play out in all of our lives, especially as it pertains to weight loss. Because I'm sure there's people in your life, if you are not that person, who has tried to lose weight before and said something along the lines of, I've just tried everything. I think it's genetics. And then someone would look at their phone and say, you ordered DoorDash 5 times this week. I don't think genetics has anything to do with that. The reality is that there's a time and place for both feelings and facts. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you have to be neurodiverse to lose weight, but I am saying there is a time where you have to put facts before feelings. But also, I'm learning as a parent, there's a time where feelings matter too. Because my daughter, whom I love dearly, 3 weeks ago, has started playing the recorder. And every day she asks me, Daddy, how do I sound today? Am I sounding better? Feelings before facts. And so knowing that there's a place for feelings and knowing that there's a place for facts, how do we find the balance of of the two, because if you have just one or the other, you're still going to be askew. Because if you're very fact heavy, you're going to have this I'm not doing enough mentality, and then you're just trading obesity for the shackles of guilt, and no one wins there. But if you have just feelings in your mentality, well, then you're going to always be processing, and you're never going to actually have progress. So for me, for myself, and for my clients, I created something called the snowflake principle. No, it's not political, it's science. Because what I love about the snowflake is in one singular scenario, two completely different things are absolutely true at the same time. Because what do we know about a snowflake under 32 degrees? They're all different, beautiful, fractals, wonderfully made. But at 33 degrees, what happens to that and every other unique snowflake? They ugly cry melt. So here, in one situation, something is absolutely unique and different. Something is absolutely the same. As to with weight loss. If you want to lose weight, there are scientific facts that you have to adhere to. You have to eat in a way that nourishes your body and supports your goals. You have to move more than you are the way you're doing to stay overweight. You have to mitigate stress, you have to rest well, and you have to hydrate. Whether you want to lose 10 or 1,000 pounds, this is true. But how you apply that to your life is 100% up to you. If you hate doing CrossFit, please don't do CrossFit. If kayaking and being in nature brings you to life and that gives you the greatest feeling of all, kayak your way to better health. If you hate the way your mom made vegetables, don't make vegetables the way your mom made them. You don't hate vegetables, you hate your mom's cooking. I'm sorry. If you're not a morning person, don't try to do this in the morning. If you're not a night person, don't try to do this at night. There are facts about this process, but you get to choose how they work in your life. I would suggest doing it in a way that makes you feel fantastic. And I know, as you can see, I know that the struggle is real. And right? And I feel one of the biggest, okay, quick off script and have real talk. Okay. One of the biggest reasons this gets so convoluted is that far too often as a society, we have accepted taking weight loss advice from people who've never lost weight. Like, we'll look at their socials and be like, hey, they're 20, they look great. Me and my 44-year-old self with arthritic back should totally work out 7 days a week with 2 autistic kids. That'll work for my lifestyle. Oh, and by the way, when it doesn't work, which presumably it won't, I get to feel guilty about that. Why do we accept this as normal? Like, we would never accept this in any other medium. Like, imagine if someone came up to you and they were like, I have the worst plumbing in my house. I have asked 10 different electricians how to fix this plumbing, and every electrician gives me a different answer, and my plumbing still sucks. Yeah. Stop asking plumbers. It's not my fault. Stop asking electricians for plumbing advice. But yet we do it all the time with weight loss. We don't find people who have similar lifestyles, similar histories, similar challenges to help walk with us and advocate for us. So please stop taking bad advice from people who aren't qualified to give you advice. And I get it. It's hard. I really do. And you don't have to just take my word for it, because you can take the words of other people that have adopted my philosophies, who have found the balance between facts and feelings, between science and emotion. And they too have discovered that weight loss doesn't have to suck. You don't have to willpower yourself to fitness. You don't have to hate yourself thin. You don't have to take what should logically take 9 to 12 months and make it a 30-year struggle. You can have freedom if you're willing to find the balance. If you're willing to separate the science from the emotion, work on them separately, and then bring them back together so they can work for you instead of against you. So, as you can see, weight loss is easy. Y'all are just doing it wrong.